What's up, everybody? Welcome to You Rankin with Me. I am one of your hosts, Chad Webb, and I'd like to introduce my other host, James Tancock. How you doing, James?
I'm pretty good, man. Doing just fine.
Perfect. All right, and we have her right on the screen right now. Our only guest this time is Kerri Webb, my wife. How's it going, Kerri?
Good.
All right. So now, today we are going to be doing some rankings, right? We're going to focus a little bit on the MCU, if you can kind of tell from some of our shirts. I'm very excited for this one, but we're going to focus today on a little bit of a shorter video. We're going to do Phase One of the MCU because we figured there's a lot of these movies. We should probably break them up into smaller chunks so that we're not having like a 3-hour video that's like in-game size. So let's kind of get into just our regular feelings about the MCU. James, how did you get into the MCU? Have you been in it from the very beginning? How big of a fan would you say you are?
I'd say I'm a pretty big fan of it. I loved the first Iron Man movie when it came out in 2008. It was so good. I wasn't too keen on reading the comics or anything when I was younger, so I've mostly kept to the movies, but I've enjoyed pretty much everything that Marvel has put out on the big screen. I mean, some of it's obviously way better than others, but I'm always looking forward to what they put up on the screen, and I'll be at the theaters for as many of them as I can be. I rewatch them as many times as I can. I thoroughly enjoy them.
Yeah, you said it, man. What about you, Carrie? What is your experience with the MCU? When did you start watching them, and how big of a fan would you say you are?
I would say now I'm a pretty big fan of the MCU. It definitely took a little while to get there, especially like I think when they released the first few movies, they might have said they were developing a cinematic universe then, but I just remember going to see The Incredible Hulk. Somehow I wound up in that movie, and then I don't think I saw another one until Thor came out. Actually took me a while to see all the Iron Man movies. But now I've seen them all, most of them, a couple times, and yeah, I really enjoy them. I really think the world that's been developed is just really cool. There's so many great characters. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like one of the biggest franchises that we have today. It's probably the biggest, let's face it. I mean, look at how many movies they've released, how well they do at the box office, and the quality of a lot of them. Like, James was saying, like, I feel like there's not that many that are just bad. Really, there's something enjoyable to find in all of them. And I think that's because of like the interconnectedness. You'll always find something that will always keep bringing you back to the MCU. For myself, I'm in about the same boat, actually. I did not read the comics that much, like James said he didn't either. I don't think Carrie did.
No.
So we're all very like newbies, I guess, to the Marvel, stuff. If you look at it like people have been reading comics way before the MCU even started. But with me, yeah, I kind of was slow starting. I don't even think I saw Iron Man or the Incredible Hulk in the theater. I think the first one that I saw was Thor in the theater. I'm not even sure if I saw Iron Man 2 in the theater. So it was a little bit of slow going, but like since then, I've seen pretty much all of them except for maybe Thor the Dark World, I think might be another one I didn't see in the theater. I saw on like an
No, we saw
airplane.
that in the
We
theater.
did. See,
Yeah.
that's how much I kind of remember in the theater. But yeah, we'll get there when we get to phase two. But yeah, for today, we're going to start with phase one. I absolutely adore this franchise. So let's get started. But first, I wanted to ask, hey James, you ranking with me?
Oh yeah, I'm riding with you, bro. It's that time.
Carrie, are you ranking with me?
I'm here. Yes.
All right, let's get started then, I guess. Well, how this is going to work is we're going to start with our six, our worst one or our least favorite, let's say, because we may or may not enjoy all of these. We're going to start with our six, then we're going to go to our one, and then at the end we'll go ahead and kind of reveal like what our combined sort of like ranking is. It's a little bit difficult because normally we have Mr. Dylan Randazzo here to help us with that, but we're going to try our best to get that situated. And Kerri's up for the challenge, so we will get this show on the road. I'm very excited. Who wants to start with their 6? Actually, let me add in there. We were talking about this before, and this is kind of how we've been doing it. If somebody's 6 is in your top 3, just say wait for it, and we will visit that when we get to the top 3. So who wants to start with number 6?
I'll go. I'll start.
James will start. All right. What is your number 6, James?
So for 6, I have the Incredible Hulk.
All right. Okay.
That was my number 6.
Does anybody else have that in their top 3? Okay. So we're okay. Well, first of all, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is also the Incredible Hulk.
And mine is also the Incredible Hulk. So let's just talk about this now. Perfect. James, you brought up the Incredible Hulk. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, it tried. I don't know how it tried to follow like the Ang Lee one. Not that it tried to follow it. I know they were trying to set up the Hulk to be in the MCU, and the short appearance from Tony Stark in the end, like kind of tried to tie it together. But I think even knowing that Edward Norton wasn't going to be in the rest of it, kind of turned me off of the movie. I really like Edward Norton and I like Tim Roth, but I guess it's just something about the way like the story went or just the pacing of the movie. I just don't think I liked it all that much.
Yeah, exactly. Kerri, how do you feel about this movie other than it being at your number 6?
Yeah, I feel really exactly the same. I think maybe if they had stuck with Edward Norton, or Edward Norton had continued in the MCU franchise, maybe this would be one that people revisit more, or it would become kind of beloved. But because I think a lot of it is because the major character isn't played by the same actor, it kind of feels really disconnected from the rest of the MCU. And I just generally don't. I mean, I've seen the film a couple times, but I don't know. It's not one I enjoy very much.
Yeah, I gotta say the first time I saw this was like right when it came out, but not in the theater. It was like when it came out on like video. I used to work at Blockbuster around that time, so I probably checked it out from there and for free. And I remember falling asleep to it. I don't think that's necessarily. I probably was just very tired, but it might have been a little bit the quality of the film itself. I don't think it's like atrocious or anything like that, but I do agree with you guys. I rewatched it not too long ago, and I just remember really wanting to like it because I know a lot of people talk about maybe it's underrated, stuff like that. And I really liked a lot of like the beginning, and I liked the acting for the most part. Like you guys mentioned, the actors are pretty good in it. But I feel like it kind of just really devolves into like a really big like CGI fight stuff towards the end, and I just like kind of like fell out of. I was like, I'm not into this anymore. This is just not that great of a film. Even if it did connect, I would say maybe I would like it more if it did connect with some of the other actors. If Edward Norton would have stayed on, I think it was like financial stuff or contract stuff why he didn't. But, then maybe if, it was Ruffalo in there, then maybe I'd probably like it a little more. I would love to see a Ruffalo solo film or something like that at some point, unless we're just kind of done with that character because, he's been in it for a very long time. But yeah, I agree with what you guys say. It's just really not that enjoyable. And it sucks that like it's not that connected, so it really doesn't even feel like an MCU film, to be honest.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
But yeah, so that's our number 6. That's pretty unanimous there. So we will start, and I'll just go with my number 5. My number 5 is Iron Man 2. Anybody have that in their top 3? Okay, Kerri, what is your number 5?
Also Iron Man 2.
And James.
Iron Man 2.
All right, so figure that out. We may differentiate, we may not. I'm not sure. We're kind of on a roll here.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll start. Iron Man 2. I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint, what's wrong with this movie really, but there's not really much to talk about, like what's right about it either. It's just kind of there. I don't like how one of the biggest things I don't really like. Well, first off, and we'll talk about this a little later too, is I really like Terrence Howard as Rhodey, and I do not like I keep forgetting his
Don
name. Don
Cheadle.
Cheadle as Rhodey
Yeah.
that much
Mhm.
personally. I really wish they would have continued just for continuity's sake, but also I just think Terrence Howard was just better in that role. I mean, Cheadle has gotten better over time, but like also with this one, I don't like how I guess I know because he's like in the military and stuff. But I don't like how like Tony just kind of becomes like an asshole in this one, and but then right away, it seems like Cheadle just knows how to use one of the Iron Man suits, where it just kind of like took Tony so long to learn how to actually use one, and he just jumps right in one and like goes and stuff like that. Some things that I do like about the movie, I really love Sam Rockwell and pretty much anything he does because he's one of my favorite actors. So I always enjoy seeing him. But yeah, I think his role in it is not that great. I think that the villain is not that great or memorable. Like no one really would put Whiplash up there. I think one time I went like I asked Kerri a trivia question about Whiplash. She said who, and then I was like, ugh, you remember the guy from Iron Man 2? Like I had to explain it because like, no one really talks about him as somebody they remember or like. But yeah, it's just not that memorable of a movie. Even like the car race sequence that was kind of cool. No one really talks about anymore because it's just kind of over with and not that great. So I guess that's really my take. Let's go over to Kerri. What do you think about Iron Man 2?
Yeah, I think I like this one better than the Incredible Hulk, obviously, because I put it next. This one, there are some things I do really like about it. I really love our introduction to Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow. And I think she does a fantastic job in this movie. I love how, eventually she and Pepper Potts kind of become friends and are kind of to the exclusion of Tony when he's being a really big asshole. And I also, like Chad said, I really like Sam Rockwell. I actually really like Don Cheadle as Rhodey.
Nothing wrong with that.
I think kind of the main detractor for me with this movie is I honestly just get so many of the subplot points confused between this and Iron Man 3. They kind of really bleed together for me. I feel like they hit a lot of the same notes, like, Tony's not treating Pepper right. And then, he's struggling with whatever he's struggling with at the time and is being a jerk. And then they have to, fix it and get back together, and then he also has to save the day. And so I think that's just like, I don't know, it's just not as strong an entry in the franchise for me as the rest of the movies.
Yeah, I do want to jump back in there real quick because I kind of forgot about Black Widow's kind of introduction in this, and she is so badass in this. I love Scarlett Johansson so much, and she really crushes in this movie. If it wasn't for her, I think it would be a lot worse, actually. So great point, Kerri. James, what do you think about Iron Man 2?
It's I think it just had kind of a tough act to follow with how well like the first movie kind of laid the foundation for pretty much the whole universe, really the whole cinematic universe. So it kind of had its work cut out for it right off the bat. I kind of liked how his chess piece was kind of like killing him throughout the movie. I think it added a little bit more of like a dynamic to the movie. It's not just some generic, oh, he's going to go figure himself out, fight people, that whole kind of thing. There was a little bit more to it, which was kind of nice. I didn't really like the end of it when he and Rhodey are fighting Ivan in that garden area, but only because this movie kind of came out right after, if you guys remember, Clash of the Titans. I'm trying not to compare this to something outside of our movies that much, but at the end of Clash of the Titans, they're setting up this big ass fight between Theseus and the Kraken, and he just shows the Kraken Medusa's head and the whole thing turns to stone. Like, all right, there goes our awesome final battle. All right, cool. So kind of in the same way, when they unibeam each other and blow up the whole garden facility and get rid of Ivan, like, okay, there's a pretty cool fight scene that we don't really get that much of because they just ended just like that. But thinking about it at the same time, they did fight all the other drone suits just before that, so they didn't have, I guess, they didn't have the screen time for it or something, but it felt kind of lacking. Like right at the very end, it kind of dropped off. But I think I agree with you guys too. I liked how they introduced Black Widow. I think it does take the MCU. It does give it a little more direction, being an actual sequel and continuing, the storyline. I didn't really like how Stark just continued to be an asshole, especially after Iron Man 1, which we'll talk about later. But that's why it was my number 5.
Yeah, yeah. I will say, and to continue on what you were saying, just real quick, is that I think it can be done well if they want to forego the big battle at the end and subvert it, but like only if you do it in kind of like a cool way or like with a message attached to it or just something. You can be done well, but I do agree with you that it was just kind of a lame ending. But yeah, so now we go on to number 4 and our number 4s, and Kerri will have to, not have to, if she wants to, she can start with her number 4.
Okay. My number 4 is Thor.
Oh, okay. James, what is your number 4? Or is
I
that
also
in?
put Thor.
You also put Thor? All
Yeah,
right.
it's my number 4 is Thor. Yeah.
I'm a little different here. So mine is definitely going to be in your guys' top 3. It's just only 6 of them. That my number 4 is Captain America: The First Avenger. So anyways, yeah. So let's talk about Thor though, because you guys ranked mine higher.
Yeah. Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
So Kerri, do you want to start with Thor?
Sure. Yeah. Again, this is kind of one that's kind of just like for me, kind of a middling MCU movie. There are really cool parts of this, and I do feel like this is where they really started to expand the universe and develop more of the MCU. I don't know. I don't know why I don't like this. But it's just something about the style of placing it in Asgard. I guess it's just like part of the movie in Asgard. It's just not, I don't identify with it as much as the settings of a lot of the other movies. Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I don't know what to say about this
James,
one.
what do you think about Thor?
I mean, similar to what Kerri said, I think that whole kind of aesthetic isn't quite my thing. I will say also with this movie and these series of movies, I feel like it's where Marvel tried to find its humor, and I don't know if I get it that much or maybe like it that much, at least with maybe how much they put it in the Thor movies themselves. I think a redeeming factor is introducing Loki because he is a huge part of pretty much the MCU itself up until now too. So I think it gets good marks in that respect. It shows they can let villains live through more than one movie, which they don't do in a bunch of later ones too. But I think I just wasn't too much a fan of the humor style that they kind of go for. And I kind of don't like saying that because Kenneth Branagh directed it, and I love that guy, man. He's awesome. So it feels kind of weird putting it down below Captain America. But I thought this would be one of the part where we start to maybe disagree or differ a little bit in our list because they're kind of really close to each other. I think at least.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you there. I'll spoil my number 3 is Thor. But yeah, I'll talk about Thor right now. Thor, exactly like you said, Kenneth Branagh is great. He's not always great. Sometimes he makes duds. He made like Artemis Fowl, which apparently is a very bad movie. But also he made Belfast, which won an Academy Award, his first, which is insane that it was only his first. But that was pretty cool. But yeah, Kenneth Branagh, I think, directed this very well. I really like that it's kind of like a fish out of water story. he has to go like learn something. He has an arc in the movie. He becomes worthy. Like he's not worthy from the start, and he's kind of a jerk and just wants to go out and kind of run everybody just straight into battle because he's Thor, and that's what Thor would do, and that's what a good king would do. And then he learns that that's not the way to do it. Sometimes you have to be smart, and he kind of like learns to grow and be a better character from that. So I think that's why I put it a little higher, but still not in my top two, but better than the other three, I think, that I ranked lower. And but yeah, I think the visual style is pretty great. I like another one later in the franchise more, but this one I think is still a pretty solid film. Like I used to have a lower opinion of it, and then I rewatched it a couple more times, and then like since I'm like I don't love some of the stuff in the movie, but also I think it really hits a lot of really great highs. As far as the humor that James said, I understand. I really understand where you're coming from. I have had MCU like movie theater experience is kind of ruined because everybody wants to laugh every 5 minutes at something in the movie, and I'm like, dude, not every single thing in this movie is funny. Like, I understand you've come to expect that, but like, sometimes it's gonna be serious, and it should be serious at times because you have something to say. Not everything can be funny, but I do like the funny bits in this. I think what Kat Dennings is great. Natalie Portman's great. I'm so excited for her return in the new Thor. I'm very excited for that movie. And I just really like what they've done with Thor from then on now too. But yeah, speaking of the first movie, like it, don't super love it. Ranked at number 3. All right, so now I already spoiled my number 3, but we are going back to James, I think. What's your number 3, James?
I put Captain America
Okay. And then
number
Kerri,
3.
what did you put number 3?
The Avengers.
Interesting. Okay. So Kerri put the Avengers number 3. So we all have different number 3s. And then James had Captain America, and then I had Thor. Okay. So Kerri has Captain America, the first Avenger, a little bit higher, but since we both have it at our like 3 and 4, we can just talk about it now. So, all right, since I ranked it number 4, I'll go ahead and I will talk about Captain America, the first Avenger first. Yeah, this movie I feel like is a great first half of a movie, and then it just keeps on going for me. And I just, I love a lot of what they do with Steve Rogers. Obviously, Steve Rogers is one of my favorites. So it is kind of weird that I rank this a little bit lower, but I love the other films and just Steve Rogers as a character moving forward a lot more. I really love him in the first one. I love when he like jumps on the grenade and he's like, is everything okay? Did he get it? And then Tommy Lee Jones has to say, he's still skinny. And stuff like that. There's a lot of really great humor in it, but they don't go overboard. This is all around the board one of the more serious of trilogies in the franchise, and I think it's probably one of the best, if not the best. And I really do like this first one a lot. That's kind of going to be the theme around here with the MCU ranking, is that you're going to rank things you really like lower sometimes because there's even better things that you think are better. But yeah, this one I like a lot of the characters. I like the story of skinny kid who's like looks frail. Like somebody get this kid a meal and stuff like that. And like but it's not what's on the outside; it's what's on the inside, and that's what the super soldier thing is supposed to like reflect. When he gets that, it's like his inner is outer now, all that stuff. But yeah, I really love Stanley Tucci. I really love a lot of the characters in this and the story as a whole. But I do think they have the full film in like the first like 45 minutes of it, or the first hour of it, and then they keep going for another hour. And I feel like if they could have like trimmed that up, or maybe had some other character bits interspersed in there and just kind of like made it like one full thing instead of half and half, for me at least, that's how I feel every time I watch it now. I think I'd like it a lot more. But yeah, it's a really sweet story too. I love the relationship between him and Agent Carter. But yeah, so now we'll go to James. with what he thinks about Captain America: First Avenger.
Yeah, I'm a war movie buff, so I kind of like the setting that it was already going to take place in. So I was already kind of on board with it before kind of even seeing it. But I did like how they kind of started the Captain America story. I liked the work everyone did on the movie. I think I'm trying to think what I really didn't like about it. And I don't know. There's probably something in there. I think did recently rewatch it, and some of the like the CG in some of the scenes and some of like the action bits. If you go back and really pay attention to it, some of it doesn't actually quite hold up to what it did even back for 2011. But overall, I like this as an origin story just a little bit more than Thor, which is why it got one spot higher. But I think I like Captain America a little more, mostly because it's a war movie or set in that time period.
Oh, that makes total sense. Kerri, how do you feel about Captain America: The First Avenger?
I really like this movie. I don't know if I should say where it is on my list, but
I think I know from that reaction, but if you want to wait, we can wait, or you can talk about it now.
Okay, I mean, I'll just say this is my number one on my
Okay.
list. This is my favorite movie in Phase One. Part of it is because I just like Captain America's overall storyline. Like, um, if we're taking like one mini franchise within the MCU, the Captain America movies on the whole are my favorite movies. And I don't know. I love that this one starts in. I love this as like the chronological start to the MCU because we not only see the origin story of Steve Rogers, Captain America, but we also get the origin of Howard Stark, which leads us into Tony Stark. So it all really does become connected. I don't know. I just love this movie. I love the relationship between Steve and Bucky. I love the relationship between Steve and Agent Carter. I think and even between Steve and I forget his character's name, but Stanley Tucci. They develop a really special bond, and Stanley Tucci like sees in Steve, what the heart he needs in his super soldier. So I think this is just a fantastic movie. Great origin story. Just overall, this is if I'm going to pick a movie from Phase One to watch, and it's only going to be one, it's always going to be Captain America.
That's what's up. I love to hear that. That's really cool. It's your favorite. You brought back up Stanley Tucci, and it kind of reminded me a lot of the like subtle humor that's in the Captain America movies. That's just not over your, on your, knocking you out with humor. It's just like when, he's like, they're drinking together and he's like, oh, you can't drink. You have a procedure tomorrow. And he's like, but I don't have a procedure. And he just starts drinking. That's pretty great. But yeah, I love that's your favorite. It's not that far for us. It's his 3 and my 4. But these are all pretty much great movies, except for maybe our 5th and 6th. We could probably argue. But yeah, I like it a lot. But yeah, let's go on to our number 2s. And I think we're starting with me. We'll start with me.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Iron Man. Kerri, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is also Iron Man.
And James, what is your number 2?
Number 2.
The Avengers.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. All right. So a little almost unanimous, but not quite. So let's talk about the Avengers then. Kerri, that's your number 3.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about the Avengers first?
Okay. I really, really loved this movie when it first came out. I rewatched it recently. I think it was the first or maybe second time I rewatched it since it came out in theaters. And for me, it didn't hold up as much as I would have expected. And I don't know if part of that is knowing the background and how it was made and kind of the treatment of some folks on set. And like, kind of, if you look at it from the perspective of like knowing this background now about Joss Whedon, and you look at especially like Black Widow's lines and stuff, especially compared to like when you're watching it all in, like I was watching the MCU movies all in order, especially compared to like Iron Man 2 and then the later movies with different script writers. It just feels like I don't know. It just feels a little bit off. But that said, those are kind of my negatives to get them out of the way. That said, this is like an amazing movie. It's awesome. It's fantastic to see this. This is when the MCU finally totally comes together. We have all of our heroes together. Um, and it's just so fantastic to see how they interact with one another. This is the first time you get to see Steve Rogers meeting Tony Stark, meeting Thor, who just pops up from outer space and like crashes the party. There's so many enjoyable moments in this film as well, and I really love it.
All right. Yeah, James, what do you think about the Avengers?
Oh, I think it's definitely a really good movie too. I really liked being able to see all the heroes on the screen all at once. It was interesting to see what they did with it. I didn't mind the whole movie overall. I think it seemed kind of not like cookie cutterish, but they try to assemble them all and then fight in the end. So that was pretty straightforward to me, at least, which I didn't mind. It was good overall, but I don't think it gets quite the top spot in the list of these 6 movies. I'm not sure what I can pinpoint specifically that I maybe did or didn't like about it. There's a lot to think about. It. All right, I'll say this much. It was a year after Transformers Dark of the Moon, and honestly, it just seemed like Transformers with way better dialogue. In all
Wow.
seriousness. Well, because all right, look, you had not the same scenes or similar scenes, but you had the bridge scene with Captain America running over all the Jatari forces, which was kind of the same-ish camera angle of Shia LaBeouf running over that bridge, dunking through all the cars and shit while everything's blowing up around them. So like, I don't want to compare it to that. Like I said, I try not to bring in outside movies, but with Transformers just the year before that, it just seemed like that with better dialogue, to be honest. Yes, me.
All right. All right. Well, yeah. So I'll go ahead and talk. I did put this as my number one. It's just because of exactly what Kerri said on kind of like her second half of talking about the Avengers, was that it is the first big team up movie, and I know every time I watch it, I still enjoy it quite a bit. Overall, I would say like Phase One and just in its entirety, I think is just like probably maybe the weakest of the phases. Maybe, yeah, no, because 2 has some great ones, I think, some really really great ones. So I can't wait for that one. But I'll say Phase One is just overall the week. So like the Avengers, I won't say is in my like top like 5 or anything like that, but for Phase One, I thought about it. I was like, I have to put this one. I was fighting between this or Iron Man, and we'll get to Iron Man in just a second. But the Avengers was the first team up movie. I love the comedy in this. I thought it was done really well. Especially at the time. I absolutely adored Joss Whedon because I'm a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. And I was so excited, like, my guy, made this awesome comic book movie that everybody's been waiting for and dying for, and it sucks. Kerri brought up the negativity stuff around it, and I understand and I agree with that. And I'm sad and if anybody was mistreated during the filming of it, or like, written poorly because of, whatever. Very terrible. But I don't really watch the movie and get a lot of that in there. Maybe next time I'll watch out for more of that stuff. But I really personally depends, but I can, for the most part, I think, separate the art from the artist. But it is hard when you can kind of see the artist in there a lot, and you can kind of think about, but I don't really pay attention a lot about to like outside news and stuff like that too much either. And I don't watch the Avengers and think about Transformers. So very interesting, James. And never be afraid to bring up outside movies if you have a really good comparison. It's fair. These are movies, and you can compare them to anything you want, really. But yeah, the Avengers, I think, is super solid. I love, a lot of the action sequences, just the stuff, where he moves the camera and everybody's fighting. It's just iconic. This is where you start to get like the first like big score from Alan Silvestri and stuff, for the team up for the Avengers and stuff. And I think it's like evolved since then quite a bit, but you do get a lot of really great stuff. I mean, Black Widow is very good in this as well a lot of the times too. Like I love when she's trying to she's acting or whatever on a lot of there to try to get people to like tell her things, and she gets trick people a lot of the times. Like she tricks Loki and is like, thanks, that's all I needed to know, after like trying to cry and stuff like that, get the sympathy from him. So there's a lot of really cool stuff from like all these characters. And the Hulk punching Loki is always great, and they bring that up later, and it's really funny. So there's just a lot of really fun stuff. I don't really have much. I haven't seen it too recently to talk about, like, analyze the film. That's not really what we're here to do. We're just ranking these. But yeah, I think it's a really, really great team up. I love the whole shawarma thing at the end. That's a very Joss Whedon thing, and I just think it's just so funny that you would end with something like that, like all these here. It's like the first time we've seen shit like that, and I just think it's really great and a really solid starting point to build the rest of the MCU. So that's why I rank it number one, but nobody really ranked it super low or anything like that. Still a really good film that people enjoy. So yeah, let's go on to Iron Man. And Kerri and I ranked this the lowest. So Kerri, do you want to start with Iron Man?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was, this was actually a tough choice between ranking Iron Man and Captain America, because Iron Man is just a fantastic film. There's very few faults with this movie, and it is, I think, if this hadn't been the movie to start the MCU, I don't know, it probably wouldn't have lasted. Like, just because it had this strong of a start. Robert Downey Jr. is so perfectly cast in this role. He just totally embodies Tony Stark. And I think now that we've had Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark for so long, like for decades now, it's hard to like separate him and the character. But I think he just brought so much to the role. I think just the movie itself, the plot it's exciting. It starts out with a bang. Like you basically start off with like rock and roll and then an explosion in the cold open. And there are sweet moments between Tony and Pepper and between Tony and Jensen. I was telling Chad, I was like, can't believe Jensen like never gets mentioned in the rest of the MCU when he basically creates and saves Tony's life.
Absolutely.
But yeah, overall, just a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of these. So I'll go on next because James had his. This is his number one. So I at any given day, just like Kerri said, we'd probably put this number one too. It's our number two, but tomorrow I might go, you know what? Iron Man's number one, actually. Never mind. But yeah, so James is on the money here because this movie is fantastic. I love what Kerri said about the opening is great. Just starts it off. I love Jon Favreau directing this. I think he did such an incredible job at just kind of like letting Robert Downey Jr. kind of just go with dialogue and stuff like that. I've heard that they kind of wrote a lot of the dialogue together and just kind of riffed it a little bit. Just fooling around. And I think sometimes that's when you make really great movies, when you let actors just go. And I love that it's Tony's arc that at the beginning he's just a weapons dealer, and then he's like this is wrong, because he sees firsthand what it does to people and what he's doing. And I think, maybe if some people in the real world today could actually have a heart like Tony Stark, proof that Tony Stark has a heart, right? That, maybe it would be different. But I love that he has that realization, and that he, does like creates a suit to be a superhero to actually start helping people. And I love that. I love that he reveals that he's Iron Man like right away. At the end, it's like, I am Iron Man. And then that totally comes full circle, in Endgame, and you just get to see, a lot of these arcs sometimes come full circle, like in the entire saga. And I think Tony's is just one of the best all around like arc throughout, and just stories. And he's just such a great character that I adore, and I love this. And I love freaking Jeff Bridges as the villain in this, because he's just amazing. And I didn't really recognize him because he's like bald and stuff. He's not he doesn't look like the dude in this, but yeah, he's great. He's so maniacal, just like the way he just kind of what do you call it, manipulates people and stuff like that, and just like takes advantage of everybody, and yells at people. And he's just such a great villain. I think if anything, I'd say like the third act, like the very end of it, is a little like I don't like watching that one as much anymore. It's not really that fun or anything, but the rest of the movie I think is like just so good. I love that he gets locked in a cave and finds a way out, and it's great. And justice for Jensen, like Kerri said. But yeah, we will move on to James with his number one, Iron Man.
Yeah, I think it's just up at the top because I didn't really know what to expect going into it, and with there being some hint of this being the beginning of some larger Marvel superhero, you know, you know, thing that I didn't know what to expect with it. So seeing what I did, I thought it was an amazing movie. I liked how, again, we talked about his transformation from, like, just weapons dealing, kind of asshole, and then he realizes, oh shit, like my weapons are being used against like good people. Like I can't stand for this. Like this is not what I'm about. This is not what Stark Industries is about. So I liked the fight scenes were really good. I liked the initial scene when they get ambushed. I liked the scene where he goes back into that village and kills all the bad guys. He destroys them and destroys all his weapons too. I like the scene with him flying against the F-22s. Anytime you put like fighter jets like that in the movie, I'm sold on it. So I liked how that scene was done really, really well. And I will say, I think I do like Terrence Howard as Rhodes a little more than Don Cheadle, but I can live with Don Cheadle. I can live with Don Cheadle, and I'm gonna have to. So I can put up.
You're gonna have to, yeah. Ideally, one day he won't be a thing in there anymore, and that's not me being bitter. It's like, why would we still have him? So I don't know if he'll be back, but yeah.
Yeah.
He'll be back. I know it. All right, so if James is done, then that means we're done. We've ranked all of our movies and our lists. Now we have to have the overall. I think Kerri has some totals.
Yep.
Kerri has the totals.
Yours is not added up correctly.
Well, you don't have to make fun of me on the show. Okay, just go ahead and do your math thing.
Yeah. So what we did was gave points for each according to the ranking. So Incredible Hulk, we all ranked at 6, so it got 6 points from each of us. So the highest number of points equals the lowest down in the ranking. Okay, so coming in last, no surprise, we all ranked at 6th, is the Incredible Hulk. Then next, again, no surprise, coming in at 5th, we all ranked at 5th, Iron Man 2. Next is Thor. This is where we started to differ a little bit. So 2 of us ranked it as our 4th favorite, I guess, and 1 person ranked it as their 3rd favorite. Next, in 3rd place is Captain America, the First Avenger. And then we had at number 2, Marvel's The Avengers. And in number 1, because we at least all put this in our top 2, Iron Man.
Absolutely. I think that's dead on. Great job, Kerri, with the math. So we put Iron Man as our number one.
Yeah.
And like I said, we might have done that in any given day, or maybe just James is just right, So there you have it. Iron Man is our winner for our Phase One ranking of You Ranking with Me. And so very excited to get this one done. We are going to do the other phases. I don't know when the heck Phase 4 is going to end, but we're definitely going to do 2 and 3. And I was very, 2 was kind of easy and 3 was a little bit harder to rank. So I'm still trying to rank that damn thing. There's a lot of movies in that one. Moving on, we will close out this video. Kerri, is there anywhere we can find you? Anything you want to plug?
So you and I have a horror YouTube show with our friend Hunter Chambliss on his network, Nerd Entertainment Network. It's called Welcome to Primetime. We usually try to air and record on Sunday nights. So yeah, you can check us out there.
Great. James, what about you? Anything you want to plug?
I am right on the show, man.
All right, this is the only thing James does for now. But yeah, for me, I'm on a lot of crap. I do this, trying to do this more frequently. We started this a while ago. James and I had this great idea of just ranking stuff together, and we just haven't really been able to coordinate. We started with a lot of people. I think we're just going to try to do this like more regularly, maybe not every week, but a few times a month, and try to get it's easier when it's like shorter ones like this, and we'll fine tune it and make the videos a little bit shorter. But we're excited to do it. But yeah, you can find me here over on you've seen him before, Dylan Randazzo, the Dill Pickle Movie Network. He's doing great things over there on his channel, and I do a show with him called Picture This, where every month we do a year of Oscars, where basically we choose a year, we talk about it, we talk about the year, the Oscar ceremony, we take all the Best Picture films nominees, and we watch them, we rank them, we talk about them, we nominate actors and actresses from the year, and we have a lot of fun doing that. This month we are doing 2012. It's actually a retrospective that we're doing because this is 10 years later, 2022. So that's going to be very fun. Last month we did 1998 because it was Dylan's birth year, which is a lot of fun. I'm over at like a movie battleground. I do a lot of debating, which is really fun, and I do trivia kind of everywhere. I do Hunter's show with Kerri. Welcome to Primetime is really fun. Sometimes I do rank them, so I'm all over the place. Have a great time doing it. And so thank you to me. Thank you to James, as always. And thank you to Kerri, as always, for ranking stuff with me. So let's get out of here. And are you ranking with me?